Hi muckers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome back to a late night filming session. So it is currently 1:51 in the morning. You can see my Charlie XCX and my Charlie XCX vibe right now. The album is so good. That is a Charlie XCX album. Hello. All right, I want to talk about something. So we just wrapped up the Dramageddon 2 and I did a little bit of digging. Now, this has nothing really to do with Dramageddon 2. It's just a video that came into my recommended from it. Okay, we're going to be talking about Blair White today. Now, Blair White is a very polarizing, very controversial figure within this platform, and I know a lot of people that watch my videos really do not like Blair White, and then there's a small group of people that like Blair and say that she's misunderstood. Now, I base my opinions on Blair White through content that I have seen of Blair White and opinions Blair White has made that I completely disagree with in content. I do not know Blair White's history. I really don't know. I didn't know that Blair White existed as a person until Dramageddon. So please leave your opinions of Blair down below so I can get a little bit more of what is actually going on with Blair. But I know from my own opinions of things that I've seen that a little bit iffy. So Blair White has actually made a video called James Charles is a Predator, and the excuses are getting old, and I am very fascinated by what this video contains. Now, let's just stop dilly-dallying. Let's actually just get right into it. Again, I want to remind you of the P.O. box that's right here. I'm going to be sending a signed art card to every single person that is sending things there. Also, our muckers, Finsta is about to hit 20k, and whenever we hit 20k, I might stop accepting people on there for a little bit just to kind of let it build up again. But anyways, McIntyre's dumb. Fun over there. All right, let's get to this video. James Charles is a predator, and the excuses are getting old. What are the comments on this? Male victims need to be heard too. Thank you, Blair. Spelt Blair wrong. Age is just a number, should only be used for age gaps in adult relationships, someone said. Feminine people aren't seen as predators. Great point, Blair. I'm a male victim. I'm still fucked up 10 years later. I'm not even sure what to do about it sometimes. Opinion. The whole beauty community needs a hard reset. Just purge the creeps, drama sluts, pedos, and let it dissipate. I 100% agree that if James was a straight man and he was mashing young girls, there would be outrage. Morphe would have already got rid of him. He's good friends with the CEO, I think they mean the last CEO of YouTube, and his channel's in good standing order. Interesting, what a fun coincidence. Huh. You address points that I never even considered. You're beyond right. Number one, he is a gay feminine man, not what your stereotypical predator looks like. Number two, these are male victims and people do not take male victims seriously ever. Okay, I want to make a comment on this before I get to the video. Okay, so, by the way, 70% of people that have watched in the last 2 months are not subscribed. Please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. Once I've started saying that, you'd be surprised how many people are subscribing. If you enjoy the content, please consider. I post every single day. Okay, this thing, he is a gay feminine man, not what your stereotypical predator looks like. Okay, I want to throw in another point of view on this comment before we get to the video. It's very often that gay men are actually seen as predators. It is a stereotype that goes around about gay men, and so I completely disagree that him being a gay feminine man, people don't take him seriously when he has accusations because he's not what the stereotypical predator looks like. Again, a predator doesn't look like anything in particular. You know, you can have stereotypes and stuff, but it's very often, can we please look at the media? It is gay men that are gay men and drag queens. I don't want to just say gay men because that's not completely accurate of every single drag queen ever. But they're the ones that are seen as predators first in the media. So I don't necessarily agree with that statement of because he's a gay feminine man, he's not what a predator looks like. That's not true, actually. And the media does the complete opposite. Just want to give that little point of view before we get into the video. But anyway, let's get into the video. All right, let's do this. Oh, my hair's driving me crazy. I can't wait to get it cut.
I'm not physically attracted to older guys.
Oh, God. What a way to start the video. That Logan Paul podcast.
I'm not physically attracted to older guys, which sucks. I've talked to guys that live in different states and stuff, and I'm like, hey, why don't you come visit? Well, I can't afford a plane ticket. Yeah. And it's okay, well, I can.
Probably not legal enough to buy one either.
So, get on the plane. You can't afford a plane ticket. You're probably still in either high school or college, a senior in high school or in college.
Oh my God, he says it himself.
Hi, Javier. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We're going to start this video off by saying that I avoided making
God, this microphone is awful, Blair. Fuck me.
this video at all costs.
Sounds like we're through a telephone call in the 70s.
Literally, this situation with James Charles being accused by boy after boy after boy for, being in their DMs and grooming them and just all the misconduct allegations. It's been going on for a while, so I am far from the first person to talk about this. But the reason I put off talking about it was because I hate talking about anyone within the beauty community, because the toxicity within that community and within the people.
Ironic. Can you imagine Blair White calling another set of creators toxic? Whether you like her or not, come on now.
Who tends to keep up with that community and are very much involved with that community. Like, it is unmatched.
Who keeps up with your kind of content, Blair? Sorry, I don't mean to... Anyway.
And I doubt many of them would even deny it. Like, it's crazy over there. Anytime I dip my toes into that world, whether it's making my video about Jeffree Star last summer, like, there is just crazies that end up on my social media, and it's just a lot. And
oh my god, Blair has made a video on Shane as well. Have I watched this? I want to say this about Shane Dawson from 2020. Oh, we need to watch that as well. Oh, Blair has made videos on all these bitches for someone being so far removed from the community.
Ew. And the thing about talking about these individuals is they are so shrouded in like drama and beefs with each other, et cetera, that anytime you talk about them, you're automatically labeled as like a drama channel, or you are feeding into drama, when in reality,
She just broke the fourth wall.
talking about him because the topic as it relates to him is actually very serious. It's not drama, it's not tea, it's like children being preyed on.
True.
It's gotten to the point where I am so profoundly disturbed by the way in which a lot of other channels and people online are covering the story that I felt like I kind of had to weigh in. And I'm not here to recap all the very intimate specifics of the accusations for which James had.
Now, one thing I do also want to say is, while I really like that Blair made this video, and I'm probably going to agree with most, if not all, points she makes about James Charles in this, I also want to make it known that the reason Blair White is probably making this video is because a large portion of her audience would love a video of a gay man being called a predator. Blair White, in my opinion, and again, if you like Blair White and this pisses you off, okay, like, that's fine. But my honest opinion on Blair White is that she's like Caitlyn Jenner to me. A figure in the trans community that could use their platform to uplift their community, but instead use their platform to kind of speak down about their community. Therefore, they get favored by the people that would be transphobic. So, like, they're the... Caitlyn Jenner and Blair White to me are kind of like the transphobic person's favorite kind of trans person, who has all the same, mostly bigoted opinions as transphobic people, but you're trans. So if we agree with you having the same opinions as us and you're trans, then we're not transphobic, right? It's like the audience that Caitlyn Jenner panders to in mainstream media. That's why you'll always see Caitlyn Jenner dunking on trans people, trans things, gay things, all the same. And you'll see Blair White doing it as well. It's like a niche audience that they've created, but it's a big genre of people, right? So that is something to note whenever I'm watching this video from Blair. I've watched a couple videos from Blair in which I really agree with the videos. I'm not saying in terms of everything. I'm saying in terms of stuff that we've covered. And then I've watched a majority of Blair's videos off camera, and I've formed my own very strong opinions on Blair. I think that she believes a lot of the things that she says about gay people, trans people, but I think she goes out of her way to nitpick little, very small genres within her community or communities surrounding trans people, like queerness, and basically just picks the very, very, very little things to focus on and blows them up that the conservatives would have a problem with. But because she's a trans person talking about it, they're like, okay, we can have this bigoted opinion then because you're a trans person. That's my opinion on Blair White and Caitlyn Jenner. And I grip them both together because I think they both pander to the same audience. But anyways, that's what I'm saying. I know I'm probably going to agree with most things in this video, and I really like that she's making it, but I can also realize that her reasons for making the video probably have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that she actually cares about it. like when it being James Charles rather than just,
has admitted that several of the allegations are true. All the ugly details are online in articles and videos by other people, and so you can find all that information. However, I'm here to talk about why the hell he keeps getting away with it and the very interesting way in which I'm seeing people make excuses for it, make it okay, justify it. It is really not that hard to not sext minors. It's just not.
Goes without saying.
If it was that hard, everyone would be falling into that. But most people don't have this just like long history and like rap sheet of like minors they've been involved with. James does. Like if it was a one-time occurrence, I think you have a right for the world to forgive you. Like, oh, someone lied to him about their age. But then you have boy after boy after boy after boy, and oh, this one has his age in his bio, 16 the entire time, and James doesn't care. It's just a mess. At this point where there's smoke, there is most definitely fire. At this point, there is definitely a pattern, and James is a predator, in my opinion. And it's so crazy because people have fallen from grace for so much less. And I was thinking about this before I filmed because if you guys recall a video I did last summer about Jeffree Star, I'll link it in the description if you haven't seen it.
Bye, Jeffree Star. You're a monster. My experience.
I talked about a FaceTime call I had with Jeffree where he definitely revealed a very damning receipt on James Charles allegedly, let's just say, violating someone. Okay, that is the receipt. And Jeffree had teased this receipt that he had, and people were very upset about it, and I was upset about it too. I don't think you should just dangle that in front of people like it's tea or drama or something. But that doesn't change the fact that it was a receipt. And after I did that video...
This damn voice memo. In all of this voice memo shit, I don't care about Blair. I don't care about James. I don't care about Jeffree. I don't care about Shane. I don't care about any of these people. What I care about is if this is true, there's someone that confided in Jeffree Star, and Jeffree Star is leveraging them, opening up and trusting him, and he's doing it very public. Like, it's so fucked up. Like, I have no sympathy for any of you people. Any of you people, except for that person, if this is true.
I had influencer after influencer after influencer in my DM saying, yeah, we've known this about James for so long. Like, here's this other incident that I know about and this other incident. And like, yeah, this is a problem. And it's just this big open secret that's been an open secret for so long. And
I wouldn't really say it's an open secret.
Skating on by. So the fact that I'm someone who doesn't even have close relationships with these people and like, don't often have conversations with them, to have like 4 or 5 different people who don't know each other telling me like stories, sometimes corroborating the same story. I'm like, damn, he's been at it for a while and like no one has stopped him. So there's a few reasons why I think that James continues to get away with what he's doing. Right?
All right, let's hear your opinions, Blair White. Let's see if I agree with you on this. Let's see it.
And the first reason is that he's a feminine gay man. Now hear me out.
Okay, I'll hear you out.
Y'all get mad. So in the same way that we have seen like female perpetrators and predators very much get away with certain things that they've done, the same way that we see leniency in the court system when it comes to female predators, they get less prison time than their male counterparts. There are some people that think a woman can't even be a predator. We've definitely seen that. I've chronicled that phenomenon on my channel. I think to an extent, it's not the exact same thing, but to an extent, James Charles is shielded by at least a portion of that societal thing.
Okay, well, she's just went from saying it's fully a thing to now saying it's partial, because I feel like when she's saying it, she even agrees that it's like, even Blair White doesn't. I don't agree with that at all. Like, I really do not agree with that, because again, gay men are already seen as predators by a fucking huge chunk of people. So I actually, I don't think this point is valid in the slightest. In the slightest. In the slightest. We have huge chunks of people who don't want gay people being around their children. They equate a child seeing a drag queen at a pride parade as something that warrants calling that person who's doing their job a pedophile, even though the people that mommy and daddy are going and voting in Congress and stuff and voting in their local elections and stuff, or whenever they're going to church on Sunday, to be a good person, the fucking pedophiles are in front of them. But yeah, drag queens, gay men. Bullshit. So I think this point from Blair is total bullcrap. I think it doesn't apply at all. I think it doesn't apply at all. I think this is one of her, I agree with everything she's saying except for this. I think this is another one of her points where her audience like to dunk on gay people. And that is true. And there's also a lot of gay people and a lot of trans people that watch Blair White. So I'm not evading that. I'm not excusing that. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that there is a chunk of Blair White's audience, whether they're vocal or not, that do not like gay men. So Blair being able to give an excuse on why they get away from things is, you know, James Charles is like a standalone issue. James Charles is a little social media leech. That's why he doesn't go away. It has nothing to do with the fact he's a feminine gay man. Sorry, but that's a bullshit statement.
He just doesn't fit the archetype that exists in many people's minds.
But there's many people more that James Charles fits the exact definition of being a predator. He's a gay man who puts on makeup. That's what they think of.
They think about a predator, right?
I disagree completely with her.
Is not someone who is feminine, and he's not a woman, but he is a feminine gay man. He has the lashes and the contour and the hey sisters, and it's just not what you think about in your head when you think of a diddler.
I disagree completely.
Can diddle, my darlings. And even though James is in fact a grown man who is constantly doing TikToks and hanging out with teenagers, who is constantly getting caught with sex and inappropriate messages with underage boys, he still benefits from this like veneer of like fabulosity and glamour and femininity that protects him. He's just not your typical predator. And so I think that a lot of people both subconsciously and consciously write it off as not that bad. But again, it's not that hard to not sex minors.
True.
Why James has been and will continue to get away with it. Unpopular people sounded the alarm. Think back to the people who really raised the biggest stink about James being a predator. You have Jeffree Star. You have Shane.
That's a good point. I agree with you on that point. The sources are unreliable. So maybe the overexposure, now when people hear new rumors on James Charles, they think, oh, well, that started from these kind of people. That's a good point. I can agree with Blair.
Dawson, you have Tati Westbrook. Now, 2 out of 3 of those are currently banished off the internet because the internet does not like them anymore. That is Shane and Tati. Jeffree's still doing his thing. I think he'll always continue to do his thing. But, Shane's gone, Tati's gone, and people really, really hate them. So the internet often is incapable of holding 2 thoughts in their head at one time. So because they didn't like the messenger, or because the messenger had a messy past, or the messenger, did controversial things, that suddenly invalidated the message.
But I mean, it really didn't invalidate the message because look at what Bi Sister did. It had revolutionary impact. So I actually disagree with you again. I think James Charles did a good response video with No More Lies and was able to shut it all down very quickly. So I actually disagree with your point. I started to agree with it, but then you said it had no impact. But then Bi Sister had one of the biggest impacts ever. He was being called a pedophile predator all over the internet. So much so that she had to make a fucking legal statement like, I never said that. You know what I mean? I started to agree with you and I disagree with you.
Why can't more than one thing be true at once? Why can't Jeffree Star be a bad person and be a jerk and be a crappy person and also not be wrong when he calls James a predator? Like, if Hitler came forward and said that he thinks puppies are cute, would you suddenly say puppies are ugly because you just need to be a contrarian to someone that bad because they're a bad person? Like, no.
Jesus Christ, where did that come from?
I'm not saying any of these people are angels that have sounded the alarm about James, and I'm not invalidating any other reason you may or may not hate them.
She goes, I'm not saying Hitler was an angel.
I don't like Tati. I definitely don't like Jeffree, and Lord knows where I even stand with Shane at this point. But
because they used to be friends.
Really right to call James a predator, and that's not even alleged at this point because James has admitted on camera to messaging underage boys multiple times. And where there's smoke, there's fire, and a lot of people have talked about this for a long time in regards to James. Reason number 3 why James has and will continue to get away with his predation against young boys. That is that his fans are very young. And hear me out, because a lot of people that follow me are very young. So I'm not trying to be ageist. I'm not trying to sound like, some old bitch. Okay. But we're going to take it back.
I do think that that's a point. Young people, we're talking literally like kids, young teens or whatever that watch James's content aren't really watching when he gets exposed every time. They're watching the silly little videos, the TikToks. They don't care. But also, even if they did watch, they wouldn't see it as serious as what an adult would. I agree with this point. But Lord knows in 2 minutes, I'm not going to agree with you.
I don't know, 2008, when I was, a teenager, 13, 14 years old. And, I think a lot of us, comment if you can relate to this, girls or guys or whoever. A lot of us, when we were teenagers, have the story of like the older guy who hung around our friend group, right? Like the 20-something-year-old who maybe would buy us alcohol. He was like the plug to get us alcohol, or, just the guy in his 20s who would hang around our young teenage friend group. And it didn't seem off at the time. We thought it was cool. Oftentimes you think it's cool when someone who is older likes you. It's a very common thing.
True.
People that guy's age definitely knew he was a creep for, texting me and buying me and my like 15, 16-year-old friends alcohol. But we didn't realize that at the time, right? It isn't until you get older and you look back and you're like,
okay, I fully agree with this point.
Hanging out with a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds when he could have been at the bar because he's old enough to go to the bar. That guy was a creep. James Charles is that creep. I don't know how much more evidence people need. He's always hanging out with teenagers and TikToks, etc. He is consistently getting caught in 4K messaging inappropriate things to young boys, and yet half of y'all will still come up with exhibit A, B, C, and D why it's really not that bad, or this is why it's okay. Like, shut the up. There is literally no reason for a man in his 20s to be consistently hanging out with and sexting underage people. There's just not.
I agree, honey.
He is that guy. And the mascara and the contour do not mask that. At least not to me. Maybe half of y'all are
Ooh, jump scare.
Clear as day. He is that creepy guy who hangs out with teenagers. Reason number 4 why James Charles has and will continue to get away with what he's doing. The victims are male. It is a very sad reality that when a victim of these types of crimes are male, the haste that we see when it comes to addressing female victims is just not present when it comes to addressing male victims. This is well documented. This is why a lot of male victims do not come out. People just do not take them as seriously. And that's so awful. I've always said in regards to this that if hopefully I do have sons in the future when I decide to have children, I hope to God that if anything happens to them, society doesn't just like close their eyes to it and like not care and like not like rush to address it. Like, that's disgusting. That's called a double standard, and it's of the worst kind. The same way that society is meh in regards to female predators, they are also meh in regards to male victims. And it's wrong, because damn well, don't even try to argue with me on this point, that if James Charles was straight and it was teenage girls, one of them as young as 14, getting texted by him, this conversation would have ended long ago. Like when the first person came out and said something.
I do think that that's an interesting conversation to have. I really do. I think there's a lot of that I really do agree with, if I'm being completely honest with you. That is very true. A lot of male victims will not be believed, and I've seen a lot of discourse online when a male victim comes forward where people will be like, why are you complaining that happened to you? Like, you're a guy. Like, I've seen that online a lot. And by the way, that doesn't take away from the fact as well that a lot of people don't believe women victims. They don't believe non-binary victims. Like, this is a broad conversation completely. But I definitely agree with the point as well about male victims. And whenever it comes to James Charles, I think that comes into it. And I think what also comes into it is when people would speak up against James Charles, out of fear, eventually their videos would be deleted or anything like that. So there was never a consistent base. And obviously that comes down to the power and fame that's against you when you speak up about a big creator. It's unfortunate.
James's career would have been over. But here we have the third, fourth guy, teenage, not even guy, boy, right? And some of y'all will still make excuses. There's no way to sugarcoat it. People do not give a about male victims, and it's disgusting. We have someone who has admitted to being attracted to young boys on camera, and that same person who has been caught sexting young boys on camera. It doesn't get any more cut and dry. And so the fact that y'all are trying to shove nuance into this is a little bit bewildering to me. And y'all know I am the nuance queen. I am constantly, it's almost annoying at this point. It's almost a meme. Like, oh, Blair's going to say there's nuance here. Here, there really is not any. This is just crimes that he's admitted to doing. The fact that there has been, at least to the public's knowledge, no cases brought against him by any of these boys or these boys' families is quite shocking to me. But in reality, it's not that shocking because it's not like he doesn't have the money to pay people off or take care of it, right? And that's something we've seen over and over and over again with rich and powerful people who do these things. Hi, Michael Jackson. Like, you know, that he could very well be Jacksoning it, and that's very obviously a speculation on my part. We have no way of confirming that's true or not, but if it came out and that was what was happening, I would not be shocked. Long story short, we really need to, as a society, work on this ignorant blind spot we have when it comes to who can and cannot be a predator, and stop saying that things aren't as bad if the perpetrator is a female or a feminine man, or not as bad if the victim is male. And that's subconscious and conscious. There are people who definitely say that out loud, and then there are people who don't say it out loud, but they say it.
I'm letting her get her point out.
They don't care when the victim is male, and they really don't care when the perpetrator is a female or a feminine man. Like, get it together with how we address these things. And that's really all I have to say.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt because I wanted her to have her full point. Right. Okay. In closing, again, need to preface that the point of being a gay man being a factor on why people wouldn't think that you'd be a predator is flat out lies. It is flat out lies, and it is the opposite, like I said. Let me go to the other points that she had said. About not believing male victims, I completely agree. I also think that this is a case over the spectrum as well. I think the unreliable people speaking up against him definitely is a factor, but to say that they had no impact is also bullshit. I just think there's so much with Blair that I can agree on. And then there's so much where I'm like, but I've also heard you say this, or I've heard you say this, or who's this content being made for? Like, when you're calling James Charles a predator and the excuses are getting old, are you making this for the drama community to have an opinion on it, or are you making this for a conservative, like, you know what I mean? Interesting. Let me know your opinion, and I really want to watch that Shane Dawson one as well. But let me know your opinion on this. I appreciate you being here. Please make sure you're subscribed, and I will see you in my next one, and goodbye.